Mark time. Hoo-yah, San Juan.
Hoo-yah, San Juan! Hoo-yah, San Juan!
So every time I see the number 751, I think back to the USS San Juan, my first submarine command in the US military. Only 1 out of 985 people have served in the Navy. That is only 0.1% of the population. And there's only 1 in every 14,100 people that have served in the submarine force. That is 0.007% of the population. My name is Terrell Higgins. I was a submarine officer in the US Navy for 6 years. I served on 2 different fast attack submarines, the USS San Juan, the 751, and the USS North Dakota, the 784. And today I want to share with you the life lessons that I've learned from serving in the US Submarine Force. Let's get into it.
Contents under pressure, I just might blow. Contents under pressure, I just might blow. Contents under pressure, I just might blow.
When contents are under pressure, they're either crushed or they're turned into diamonds. So the submarine force is a very high stress environment. You have a high operational tempo. You go out and the deployments can be 6 months or longer. And even when you're in port, you don't really rest. You spend most of your time on the submarine standing watch. And that stress on your personal life at such a young age, people either fold or it brings out the best version of themselves. You either get a very high level of performance out of people, or they just crumble under the stresses of the submarine force. With such a high level of expectation for performance in the submarine force, one thing I discovered is there's no such thing as being clutch. There is no clutch gene. You only fall back onto your training and your processes. So whatever level you train at, whatever you consistently do is how you're going to perform under pressure. And if you aren't willing to put in the time to achieve excellence in your training and preparation, when things matter, you're not going to be able to perform at the level necessary to execute.
I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
The little things in life are the things that actually matter the most. So in the submarine force, there's a tradition of giving out command coins to other members of the Navy, and they will exchange these coins. And a lot of times there'll be stories attached to when they receive that coin, the context in which they earn that coin. And when I was in the submarine force, I actually made my own coin. It was the O-boob coin. So the only black officer on board coin. And I used to hand it out to people who worked for me who did an exceptional job. And it meant a lot to me to give you that coin, and it meant a lot to the person to receive that coin. Those throwaway moments that seem very trivial and almost meaningless are the things that matter the most in life. And I never really respected how much those small moments mattered until I was in the submarine force. Another thing that the submarine force reinforced for me is that the culture of a place comes from the top. If you have a phenomenal leader, then the rest of the organization is going to follow their lead. And if you have a terrible leader, the rest of the organization is going to follow their lead too. So one of the best leaders I've ever met in my entire life is Admiral Ollie Lewis. So he was my first commanding officer on the USS San Juan. Hoo-yah, San Juan. He is probably the best leader I've ever worked for in my entire life. And our command actually won awards while we were still in the shipyard, which is unheard of. Like, how can a submarine that's not even operating win awards? But that is something we achieved under his command. And even though serving in the shipyard is usually pretty detrimental to people's morale, he was able to maintain a very high level of morale on that ship for the entire engineering overhaul while we were in the Portsmouth Naval Shipyards. And it was all due to his style of leadership. As amazing of an experience as the Navy was, it was also a very trying experience. And I was not in the best place while I was serving in the military. And as an incentive to stay in to do your department head tour after you do your JO tour, your junior officer tour on a submarine, they have a very large bonus. So at the time I was making about $60,000 a year. And to entice you to stay longer, they offer you a bonus of $35,000 a year every single year for the next 2 to 4 years. And if you commit to 6 or 7 more years, they'll give you $40,000 a year. So that's a big jump up from just making $60,000 a year when they're tacking on another $35,000 to $40,000 to your salary. But I realized that none of that mattered if I was immensely unfulfilled by the work I was doing, if I was unhappy with the work I was doing and the state of my life. So my happiness is not for sale at any price.
I'm only burning my half. All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of criminal. And I'm gonna give it to him.
So another thing I learned from my time in the submarine force is that rock bottom is a solid foundation. So there were points during my service where I felt like quitting, where I felt like just giving up, going back to my parents' house, living in the basement, eating Tostitos pizzas, and just not continuing to push through the trials and tribulations of submarine life. And when you get stripped down to that level where you don't know if you have anything left and you don't know if you can keep going, you've hit rock bottom. And when you hit rock bottom, there's no place to go but up. And that is a solid foundation to start from, because you find out what you're really made of and you find out what's really important to you and you build from there. So another interesting thing I realized from the submarine force is the context in which you apply your skills matters more than the skills themselves. So when I was in the Navy, I was only making about $60,000 to $70,000 a year. But those same skills applied in a different context are worth way more money. So it is not uncommon for submarine officers and enlisted to get out and go work at nuclear power plants, because submarines are nuclear powered. But they also get hired at data centers. And if you apply that same skill set in those contexts, you're gonna go from making about $60,000 a year to over $200,000 a year. And it's not uncommon to get hired on making a 6-figure salary while they're training you up for your full level of qualifications. So applying your skills in the right context will actually result in you making more money. Overall, being in the submarine force was by far the best and the worst thing that has ever happened to me. And I would not change it for anything. The time that I served in the military is some of my most treasured moments of my entire life, because it showed me what I'm actually made of. It showed me what I'm capable of doing, and it gave me the confidence to go out into the world and actually pursue the things I wanted. And if anyone is on the fence about joining the military, I'm not going to kid you and say it's going to be easy, but it will show you what you are made of, and you will be a different person on the other side of that experience. If you guys are curious what I did after I left the military, feel free to check out my path to my first million video, where I describe how I was able to achieve millionaire status using a combination of stock investing and real estate. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next time.